goes to the top 17, and then they have some like cursory mentions. But I heard that he finished 25th in the overall voting last year, and now he's up to 10th. So that progression continues. So congratulations to him. Obviously, what Cristiano got his fifth Ballon d'Or. He's still a twat, and we don't like him. Also, with his next Premier League goal, which will be his 91st, he will tie Jermaine Defoe and Robbie Keane, Premier League era goal scoring for the club. Spurs' record is Teddy Sheringham with 98. So he's only seven. He'll only be 7 behind after he scores his next one. He's 8 behind now. That could happen by Valentine's Day, easily. Cherish, your thoughts on what we're seeing, and we got to pinch ourselves and remind him he's still really just a kid.
Yeah, 24, right?
Yeah.
So he had a little. Obviously, the team had a patch that wasn't so nice, and when Kane doesn't score, it tends to show in our results. And obviously, he bagged a brace yesterday, and it's another 4-goal victory over Stoke. I think that's now a record, right?
Correct.
4-goal victories over a team. And it's nice. I guess it's nice that they got the goal, because then we can say 4-goal victories.
Yeah.
Because we thought it was going to just stay at 4-0 again. But yeah, it is what it is. And we'll take the 3 points and the 5 goals. But yeah, he's, I think, now going to kick on. I think coming back from that injury, he wasn't quite fit. You could sense that he was struggling a little bit. And yesterday, particularly once that goal went in, he was just so sharp, chasing the balls down, getting where he needed to be, getting offside, which is good because that means he's striving for being in position to put the ball in the net. And, that one shot where he beat, I think it was the young kid Edwards that played him on the right.
Felt bad for that kid, man. 18 years old.
And he broke into the box, and he should have scored and normally would have, and it just went wide. And I think I saw a stat during the game that he has the most shots on goal this season, and now he's got 12 in the Premier League. I think he's one behind Salah, and I think he's going to kick on. And I think there was a lot of confusion yesterday that someone put out there that Dixie Dean was the last Englishman to score the most goals in a single season, and that was 90 years ago. I think Lyle Thomas corrected one of those posts, and I backed it up. I went and looked at the stats, and Jimmy Greaves in 1962 was the last Englishman to score more than 50 goals in a calendar year. He got 59. I'll bore you with the stats. 27 came in the league and FA Cup in the first half of 62, the back end of the 61-62 season when he joined us. Following season, he scored 26, 23 in the league, 2 in the old Charity Shield, and 1 in the Cup Winners' Cup. And he also got 6 for England in 10 appearances. So there's your 59. So, and he did it in 61 appearances. I can't remember how many Kane has his appearances for this year. Can Kane get 9 more goals in the rest of this year? I mean, he's got 3 games? 4? Is it 3 or 4? Southampton, Brighton, Burnley, City. He's got 4 games to do it in. So, but you don't know. You just don't know. Yeah, I mean, you could get a hat trick here, a brace there, and another brace. And Harry doesn't normally just score 1 goal a lot of the times. He likes to get a couple. And if this is a catalyst for us kicking on with the form in the second half of last season, we saw that we can. We've had our blip. We can't afford another blip. We know that. We've got to keep going. You can drop a couple of points here or there, but you can't have a 3 or 4 game patch where you're dropping points left, right, and center like we've just done, or we will be adrift.
Tim, I was glad to hear Chairs talk about Kane kicking on, and hopefully this will re-kickstart the season for him a little bit, even though it's not like he really ever slowed down. But when I was watching the match yesterday, I want to find out if you felt anything like what I felt, and that was when he almost dispossessed, can't remember the keeper's name, whatever, almost dispossessed him, had the heading chance that obviously went awry because the keeper got a hand to it. He had the opportunity with Sonny bombing up the pitch, didn't receive the pass, and then when he finally did get a chance, he scuffed it, fluffed his lines a little bit, and shot that ball wide. I immediately started to think, oh great, that's all we need is for him to start losing his confidence a little bit. Did you have any inkling of that at all, or did you just think to yourself, it's Harry Kane, it doesn't matter? there are no bad runs of form.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't really. The rest of the team was kicking on at that point. I didn't really have that fear that it was going to last. We were getting the chances. I kind of more just felt like it's going to happen at some point in this game.
Yeah.
And it did happen, and the floodgates opened. He almost had 4. I mean, he could have had 4 goals in this match easily.
Yeah.
But when he missed that one just barely wide of the post, I kind of had a little bit of that feeling, because that's not a goal that Harry Kane misses.
Yeah. Let's start with you on Dele as well, because I want to talk about him. I thought he played well. I don't know that I think he played great. I don't think he played bad. But when he's the player that gets subbed off in the 65th minute or whatever it was when Lamela finally came on, does it have a little bit of a hint of if Lamela is going to start a match again, it's Dele who's going to sit?
I don't know, because keep in mind he also played the full time against Apoel. He had played against Watford, against Leicester, against West Brom, against Dortmund. He hasn't had a rest. So if you're going to take someone off at this point, he was the one to take off, give him a little bit of a rest. Him and Eriksen, they're the ones who need rest. But
yeah,
I don't know who would come off for Lamela to come on, and it'll be interesting. I mean, it'll be a bit of a headache for the manager to figure it out, because once again, I mean, Lamela's coming back, but Sonny's form is so good, you're going to have to find a way to get him in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you're looking at players who have been underperforming, to say, you could look at Dele, because we do expect so much from him based on the past 2 seasons, the form he's been in. He hasn't reached those standards, and he admitted it. You know, he was the player that Poch brought up on the press conference prior to Apoel, and he recognized it, that his form hasn't been great, but he's just got to keep pushing on. So if you're looking purely off of form, it would probably be Dele to take off. Eriksen's had a bit of a bad run. I mean, throughout November, I think you could look at pretty much all of our attackers have had a poor run. What do we have? Was it 4 goals total in the Premier League?
Yeah.
In the month of November,
Yeah.
Is that right? Something like that. So, I mean, all of them had poor form last month, and with the way Pochettino runs the ship, I mean, if you're not performing at your highest level, he'll drop you. Your name doesn't mean that much to him. He's not going to keep you just on the pitch because of your name. If you're not performing, you'll sit on the bench, and he'll give the chance to someone else. And Sonny's taking all those opportunities right now.
I almost looked at this as a situation where I really wished that Lamela was ready to come back 2 weeks earlier. Because, Chairs, I don't know how you feel about international play and the emotions that go along with that match that finally gets your country into the World Cup. And when you have the performance that Eriksen had, scoring a hat trick that catapulted his side into that qualification for the World Cup, you almost want to give him a chance to relish that. And immediately he's coming back, and 4 days later he's on the pitch for Spurs. That may have been a good opportunity for Lamela to maybe play and give him a rest and let him, reap those rewards emotionally a little bit. Do you think that plays at all? Maybe not from the manager standpoint, but maybe on the psyche of the player?
Well, I think so, but in this situation, Lamela was just not ready, and I think Eriksen was really kind of exhausted after all that, and it really showed in a couple of games. So I thought he played a lot better yesterday. He's starting to get his free kicks where they need to be. There's some of them are still a bit dodgy, but I think Lamela is. I don't want to say he's a luxury player in regards to surplus to the team's needs. When I say that, I think the luxury is he can slot into different positions. He can replace Eriksen, Dele, or Son at any place on the pitch, and that's where I think that's where we're going to start to see a benefit. Where last year we didn't have that. We missed that fourth attacking option or someone to come off the bench as an attacking option, because who was it? It was Sissoko, right? So or Janssen. And for someone in that midfield position behind Kane, either left or right, it gives us a great option. And I think Tim's kind of nailed that. Dele has played a lot of football. I didn't read anything into it when he came off. I thought that's good. He's starting to get the players off to rest them for Brighton, and knowing that City's coming up. And I think that's going to be key, is who do we rest in the Brighton game? Not that we should consider them a pushover. Obviously, we've got to be able to put the best team out there on Saturday. And we still got to play the gamble with Vertonghen, who's 1 yellow away from suspension.
Yeah.
There was never much chance of him. He had one really good tackle, I think, that might have got him into trouble, but he was just so far ahead of, I don't know if it's Choupo-Moting or Diouf, but he got the tackle in well. And so, do you give him a rest against Brighton and play Foyt with Dyer? I don't know. But one last thing on Dele, and I was obviously looking at Twitter and social media after I'd watched the match, and I saw Vass had made a comment about Dele's general play had been pretty poor. He'd made that comment right before the through ball. And I must admit, Dele is still trying that extra touch to get through, and that's been disappointing. He certainly isn't the player of last season. The moments of brilliance that he's been able to provide have been great, and that through ball was a perfect example of that yesterday. But boy, did Vass get absolutely skewered by Norm Giller, who was just like, I think he's just tired. Well, he's just tired of seeing this anti-Spurs sentiment. And, I didn't see that in what I was reading from Vass. He just said he'd been pretty poor again. And it's not slagging off the player. It's an observation. And I think we're seeing on social media, we're seeing people just slag off the team, the Poch out brigade, which I just don't have time for. But we can make observations. We can say, look, this player didn't do so well. I'm not going to publicly slag someone off, but I'm going to say, look, I thought there were opportunities out. That's what we're going to do here. I think the only person we've probably slagged on here is Sissoko. But, in the general scheme of things, it's okay to make the observation if someone's had a bad game, a poor game. But, we're going to support them. We want them to do better. We want them to achieve good things. So I felt sorry for Vass having to get slated there. He was just trying to state his case, and Norm wasn't having any of it. So
I think it's just funny that you get upset at Vass of all people for that, because think back to the transfer window. You know, him and Sammy were on opposite sides, and Sammy kept him a happy clapper. So for Vass to be the one that gets slated off of that is pretty funny.
And again, I just picked up on that one tweet, and I read the thread just because I saw there were comments, and I was just trying to get some perspective because I agreed with Vass. I thought, and Dele has been doing that of late. He's trying that extra pass, the extra touch to try and get in the box. And I don't know if people have sussed him out, or I don't know. So I think he's got some opportunity to improve his game as this season goes on. And, he's chipped in with some goals, but Son, that man's on fire. And I know he can be probably the most inconsistent of the forwards. But his play has been outstanding. He's really enjoying his football, and he's our second scorer behind Harry right now.
No, that's a good shout, and I think, Timmy, you mentioned Foyth. He did not play bad at all against Apoel. I thought he had an outstanding performance. I don't know that he's quite ready for Premier League play. If you're gonna maybe take an opportunity to play him, not that you want to sit Vertonghen. It's an interesting proposition that he's a yellow away from suspension, and then
that's what I was thinking.
You're without Toby. You're without Sanchez, who's on a red, and then you lose Vertonghen. You may as well, not that you say pack it in, but when you have Dyer and Foyth back there against City, it's a big difference between playing Dyer and Foyth against Brighton. I mean, do you agree with that?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. I mean, talk about baptism by fire. You're just setting him up to fail. As his first Premier League minutes are going against, Gabriel Jesus and Leroy Sané and David Silva. It's not going to go well if that's his first experience in the Premier League. And also just think about, the psyche of it. You don't want to have him just get beat down his very first match, because next time he comes on the pitch, he could be doubting himself. He does play with some confidence. Yep. You saw it in the Apoel match. Him and Sanchez together, you kind of have that fear, like when Kirikesh would try